A professor in JNU, this school only. He was a professor in Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies. And he was a student. He has been a student of JNU. He did his PhD from JNU. And before that, he was a student of BHU. And before that, he was basically a victim of caste system, which we have talked about. And you might have read his autobiography, Murdaya and Manikarnika, and in those autobiography, he has really given everything in the reality of Indian society, the caste atrocity, the basically the feudal system in village and all, how people of particular caste are treated worse than animals and all. So no need of repeating all this. But about Professor Tulsiram, two, three things are necessary, and that Professor Tulsiram was a philosopher of basically Buddhist philosopher, as well as he was a philosopher of Marxism, and at the same time was a Dalit activist as a scholar. So all in three in one. So that way he had altogether a different thinking about the society, the politics, and what are the challenges of Dalit leadership in pursuing this career politics and all. And that's why he has narrated in so many writings and speeches. He has talked a lot about the pathetic situation of Dalit and how, the ways their pitiable situation has to be ameliorated or improved and all. So, being a communist, he didn't have a typical communist. He didn't believe in this is the only class. It's not a caste. As if there is no caste. In Indian society, he believes caste as well as class is there. So let us talk about it. And he wanted to have a coordination between these two. So it is not, and it was like basically it was not like that many typical communists. At the same time, he was anti caste, and he took Dalit leadership who was opportunist, that only Dalits politics or the advancement or the pitiable situation of Dalit will not be improved only through politics. Social movement has to be there, and for that he advocated. He talked to the people, like, let us go to the ground, let us work for the people who are innocent and all. So not only academics, but academy has to be practiced in the people, among the people and all. So, and then some people, the Dalit particularly, who criticize people like Gandhi, he was not anti-Gandhi, but at the same time, he was not in favor of Gandhi's philosophy that Varna system is a supernatural thing or something like that. So he was very critical about that. Despite of that, despite of his critic, he was loved by every section of society, and that is the basically his achievement. I just wanted to give this introduction about Professor Tulsiram, because one a role model has to be there. He is a person who has continued the saga or the heritage which was started during Bhakti movement. Kabir, Raidas, Chokha, and again you have talked about the Periyar in Tamil Nadu, Narayan Gunduri in Kerala, and Phule in Maharashtra, Dr. Ambedkar again from Maharashtra. He was a torch bearer, or in the sense he was a bearer of the battle to the society, and through his writings, through his speech, through his interaction with the student, teachers, and people, common people. He has been very truthful about that. So this is the brief background, and he also criticized a leader like Mayawati when Mayawati was worshipping some basically fictitious god, and actually it was basically he said कि दलित मूवमेंट को ब्राह्मणवादी के ये पाखंडवादी चीजों में लपेट लेंगी. मतलब he was critical. It was not that it was a very scholastic intervention about the Dalit politics, and here Dalit also criticized him as well as similarly the so-called upper caste or mainstream. When at the last time, when he, in the last phase of his life, he joined Congress, and I know one incident. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, during Kumbh in Allahabad, she was asked by the leaders, Congress leaders, to have a dip in the Ganga, and that Ganga river was very dirty that time because lakhs of people were having dips in that, and that she was forced to have a dip. एक डुबकी मारने के लिए उनको तैयार किया गया, उनको जबरदस्ती गंदा पानी में डुबकी जाए. Then he was very critical. Professor Tulsi Ram was being a member of not a member, but he was sympathizer of Congress party. He criticized this act of so-called Brahminical follower of Congress, and then also he was like, you know, what you got get Rajiv Gandhi Fellowship or other fellowship of UGC. He was basically the concept was perceived by him way back in 2000, more than 2004, and he was a founder member of that kind of scholarship. These are the things which our students wanted to need to be informed. And with this introduction, I now request. Now you decide who will be the first. So I request
Vivek should have the first.
Professor.
He is my colleague and he has been talking about it as part of academics as an existence also. So love to listen to him.
All right.
I welcome to Professor Tulsi Ram, our beloved teacher, and to start with one anecdote that how comical he was, and he could really give us a lot of sense that from where he was coming. So he was telling a story once. जब हम लोग पेरियार में रहा करते थे तब हम लोग लाल चाय पीते थे. नहीं सर, don't take it otherwise. It is literally लाल चाय यार. लाल चाय जिसमें दूध नहीं पड़ता है. आप लोग तो so होता क्या था कि in the Periyar room, whenever somebody used to come, so मतलब बेइज्जती लगती थी, काली चाय पी रहे हैं या लाल चाय पी रहे हैं, तो they used to shift their tumbler down the bed, and when the person used to go, they can start actually thinking. Then they said that, yeah, when I grew up, when I became professor, then I realized the black tea is taken by the intellectuals. And then he said, oh, then I realized, हम लोग तो बहुत पहले से intellectual हैं. So such was the hilarious inputs he will give in a very, very serious atmosphere. And I think actually that he was really, one thing was, which we also sometimes did not like, was that he was very critical. When he used to become critical, oh, you can never be able to match his power of criticality. So I think that is another anecdote. And these two things can be read in both the volumes of his autobiography. One is, of course, Murdaya, and especially he tries to deconstruct our, functionalist approach to village. That village is a very functionalist approach by M.N. Srinivas and others. And also, Guru Govind Do Khade Kake Lagu Pai. He has deconstructed the image of the Guru. I think we should engage with these two very good biographies actually. One is Manikarnika and another is Murdaya. And he says that Murdaya has become the geopolitics of our village. Very great metaphor. I think you should engage with it. Now this brings me to the topic of the day, and Shrikant and my colleague Bimal, I feel myself that I have only a singular identity, that I am a teacher or a professor. Now they have dual identities. One is ex-IS officer and another is a professor, and both are now MPs. So I will be speaking actually on my little knowledge of theory, and of course Bimal will take on that as well, because when he was speaking he quoted Ashish Nandi. I was feeling, I don't go along with Ashish Nandi at all. I don't like it. So, but his speech was of course marvelous, and millions of people have seen that. The way he has talked about the privatization of violence and of course state withering away. I think that's a very different metaphor to be spoken in parliament. But friends, this is a very, very mundane issue, Dalit politics. Because हम लोग क्या एक feminist will forgive me, एक कहावत है कि गरीब की बाई गांव भर की भौजाई, कोई भी ठिठोली करे. So actually Dalit politics is like that. Anybody can give any sermon. And this happened that out of 25 crore people, not even one was there to talk on the voting habits of Dalits in the mainstream media. Not even one Dalit was called to even give sermon, or can they say something that look, Dalits vote like that. I was listening, Sardesai on the other, Chaudhary on the other, Viskarma on the other, Verma on the other. They were all actually talking about how Dalits casted vote. And of course in JNU also, some people were talking about meta-narrative of Dalit voting. I said, if meta-narrative is all India, then what about the states? States had particular way of voting, and every state has voted. Dalits have voted from Karnataka to Delhi. Dalits have voted differently. So how can you construct a meta-narrative of Dalit voting? Why can't you go state by state when they are different? So I think actually there are sermons, but let me just begin with my own little understanding, and I've been pursuing this problem since my MA days, when I tried to actually give a typology of the Dalit movement itself and Dalit leadership. So if you want, you can read my book. So who reads? Only me. Dalit leadership in India, 2002. There are two readers, as Professor Uman used to say. One, me, and another is the proofreader. And for me is only one, because I am the proofreader of my book. So there is only one person reads. So, but there is a very, very important typology that Dalit leadership can be simply divided into two parts. One is dependent Dalit leadership and another is independent leadership. Independent Dalit leadership emerged with Gopal Baba Walankar. Along with that, actually later on developed by Baba Saheb Ambedkar in 1926. Actually, there were definitely different types of mobilization. And why I call dependent and independent, I will come to that later. But independent Dalit leadership has its own agenda. And we can say that in 1936, for the first time, an independent Dalit political party was established by Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Even in 1926-30, there was a Kabir Dal in Bihar. And there were other parts of that, but I take it Baba Saheb Ambedkar as the fulcrum of the independent Dalit leadership. Now, 1936 he formed Scheduled Caste Independent Labour Party, 1942 Scheduled Caste Federation, 1956 he was laying down the foundations for RPI, which was established in 1957, 1972 Scheduled Caste Federation, and 1984 then actually Bahujan Samaj Party. So this is a simple line that you can draw, that there is an independent Dalit leadership which have their own agenda, which have their own slogan, and which have their own ideology. But juxtaposed to that, there is dependent Dalit leadership which do not have their own independent agenda. They do not have their own independent ideology. They are functioning in the party of the others. And that is the main, they are never the mainstream. They are being actually captured in cells, SC, ST cells. They are not the mainstream, though they are majority, but they are always kept into the cells. And they speak the language, of course, of their own leaders, and that is why we can see Jagjeevan Ram can be considered as one of the dependent Dalit leaders, and he was ready for at least 72 seats always of scheduled caste reserve constituencies, and Madam Gandhi relied on him always for winning. Now, after that, we can see Bangaru Lakshman was being groomed, but what happened to him? Bangaru Lakshman, or even you can say the other political leaders who are there, those who do not have their independent existence. Rather, they are within the scheduled caste cells or scheduled tribe cells, and they have to abide by the party rules and regulations. So, if we take this formulation, then what happened? Dalit have tried to mobilize the public, and I take public, especially counter public from Nancy Fraser, that how public is important, not the leader is important, because in democracy people choose the leader, it is not the leader who choose the people. So problem is that people are not ready to understand that how counter public, it is the same public within 2 years back was not ready to accept a leader as a leader, and what names they were calling. You can understand. The same public is now actually observing with awe. Every statement is considered as an awe. But what happened to the leader? The leader is same. Therefore, I think I really buy this argument that in a democratic movement, a counter public plays a very dominant role. It's actually the crisis that makes public get up and start. And that's where I think I bring in the concept of mobilization as given by Rudolph and Rudolph, Modernity of Tradition, 1985. He talks about two processes, fission and fusion. Now, fission is basically when the castes are powerless, they try to fuse, they come together, there is solidarity. But as soon as they get power, they get empowerment, there is a fission. So this is the physical model actually, that how the atoms actually unite and there is fusion, and when you collide there is a fission. So they just dissociate, and that's the experiment. When Rudolph and Rudolph were talking about, and I think we have Shrikant here, he will bail me out, that how in Tamil Nadu, how the Vanniyars, they were earlier powerless, but once they started coming to DK movement, they became so powerful, and as soon as they became powerful, there started fission. And you can see that Vanniyars is everywhere, every political party, DK, DMK, AIDMK, and PMK, MDMK, and there is a fission of lot of, but everywhere there is Vanniyar. Now I just bring it this model, fission and fusion, in Uttar Pradesh with the experiment of Bahujan Samaj Party, that how Manavar Kashiram in 1984 started building a Bahujan coalition. And Bahujan, you know, that was a simple argument that, look, society is divided into two parts. 85 are the sufferers of the Manuwad and 15 are the beneficiaries of the Manuwad. This was 85 and 15. Now 85 are the majority Bahujans, and yet Bahujans have majority vote, and yet Raj Tumhara. So the Nara, the slogan was, Vote Hamara, Raj Tumhara, Nahi Chalega, Nahi Chalega. Now he started mobilizing, breaking the caste within, and the first caste to come was Patels. Lot of Patels, starting from Jang Bahadur Patel, Sachan, Verma, they were all actually Kurmis basically. I am saying Kurmis, they came, they were the first to come. Whether it was Sonelal Patel, Jang Bahadur Patel, and Sonelal Patel was first to dissociate in 1995 after getting power, after realizing that why should we subservient to the Dalits? Why can't we be on our own? And that's where I actually look at, this is the limitation of caste politics. And Baba Sahib Ambedkar's one very important concept, graded inequality. Indian society does not have simple inequality. It is caste graded inequality. If there would have been simple inequality, then all the castes would have united and dismantled the structure. That is not the case. There is graded inequality. The lower strata, the Shudras want to go up, but they don't want untouchables to come to their level. The Shudras want to go up, or the Vaishyas want to go up, but they don't want that the Shudra should be to their level. And actually Vaishyas want to go, they do not want. And similarly, Kshatriyas want to go up, they don't want others. So this is a very, very tested, empirically verified data. You take actually the Bahujan concept which was formed, and I'm giving you 6 examples of the parties which have come. The first one, I said the Apna Dal led by Anupriya Patel, daughter of Sonelal Patel. Then Rajbhar, 2002, Rajbhar actually was the speaker. Sukhdev Rajbhar was the speaker. Such was and there was actually Ramachal Rajbhar having 6 departments. There were actually other Rajbhars who were ruling. But in 2002, they said, no, we will have our own party. Why should we let down? Then the third party was Nishad party, which is having. Now, Nishad party, if you look, there were 3 Nishads in the first 2 governments of the Bahujan Samaj Party, 1995 and 1997. Vishwambar Das Nishad. And now there is a Nishad party. Then, even among backward Muslims, there is a peace party. Jodhja, Kuchwa, Kasai, Kundra, Chudihar, Panihar, Gaddi. They were all together. And actually they were MPs, they were MLAs, and they were ministers. But in 1990, 1998, 99, there is a peace party. So Dr. Ayub is running that. And then we have also Kushwaha party, we have also Maurya's disarming away. Not only that, within the Dalit themselves, there, as Srikanth was saying, that there is an aspirational class. What about Azad Samaj Party? मोछे एठने से ही लीडर हो गया कोई आदमी. So what I'm trying to argue is that there is an aspirational class which is not ready. But the simple argument is that how and why one should play a subservient role for the Dalits. Why can't they be decider of their own destiny? I think that is a very, very simple understanding of the Dalit politics. I collaborate my data from Punjab also. Channi was given the, say, free hand to become chief minister. And he was contesting. It is not that he was not educated, he was educated. And yet the Jats did not accept him as a leader. Now we can go on and giving this example, but I think these are three examples are suffice to argue that the limitation of the mobilization of the Dalit politics is that people are not ready to accept Dalit as their leader. And therefore, independent Dalit assertion will not be a reality. It will keep on breaking. It will keep on coming up, as it happened that in 1957, RPI was actually working. See, it went down. The Dalit Panthers came. Dalit Panthers went down. Bahujan Samaj Party has come. And now Bahujan Samaj Party is also dwindling away. So tomorrow. But what Srikanth was saying, I think I accept that. The aspirations have come. Aspirations are born. They are not going to go again in the womb. They are rising. They are actually growing up. And therefore, they are waiting for, just like in science, they were waiting for, in social sciences, they were waiting for their Newton. I think they are waiting for Baba Sahib Ambedkar. They are waiting a credible leader. There is enough, and Maharashtra is very good example, that there is enough volunteers for Dalit politics. And it is not actually, I'm only talking about mobilization at the grassroots. It is going at the international level. Ambedkar International Center, how Ambedkar statues at 11 universities, how this mobilization is taking place. 11 universities, starting from London School of Economics to Brandeis to Massachusetts, Amherst to Simon Fraser to Toronto and Khoisana in Punjab, Australia, Queensland and Melbourne. You look at the way how this international assertion is taking place, and therefore it will be very difficult. It will be difficult to nip in the bud the aspiration of the Dalits. Though on the one hand, there is basically limitation, but on the other hand, there is assertion. Now, this is the contradiction of the Indian society, and in that context, what has happened on 1st of August, how Dalit mobilization is taking place on the basis of reservation. I was just reading the 565 pages verdict, and all the 6 judges, you see what has happened. Justice Chandrachud and Justice Mishra has written 134-page verdict. Then there are 2 people who have written 2-page verdict. Satish Chand Sharma and Jairat Saab has written only 2-page. Justice Bela Trivedi has written 84-page and one is 64. But Mr. Gawai has written 281-page. 281 page. And in 280th page, he has 10 points to conclusion. In one point, that is 7th point, he has put creamy layer. Now this is against the natural justice. You were hearing for subcategorization, and you are doing actually, you are giving a sermon, you are giving a justice on, or judgment. I never call it justice, it is judgment. You have given the judgment on creamy layer among the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Scheduled tribes were not there at all to be heard anywhere. So how can this bench can take such type of decision, judgment? And therefore you look at the way I was just looking at what is the pertext of subcategorization. That is caste mobilization and politics. I think one should ponder. What is the pertext? The pertext is Dalits among the Dalits are not getting their share because the powerful among Dalits are taking away their share. Isn't it? दलितों में जो ज्यादा मजबूत हो गए हैं वो मलाई खाए जा रहे हैं और जो बेचारे नहीं पा पाए वो नहीं. अरे भाई, मैं तो कह रहा हूं पार्लियामेंट आप एक बिल लाइए और दलितों में दलितों को कितना परसेंट दिया जाना है, यू डिसाइड हाउ मच परसेंटेज यू आर गिविंग, बट डोंट मेक द दलित्स हु हैव हैड द रिजर्वेशन इन देयर फर्स्ट जनरेशन एज द कल्प्रिट. आप क्या कर रहे हैं? आप उनको खलनायक बना रहे हैं कि तुम तो मेरा ड्रेस ले रहे हो, जबकि this is not a scientific reality. The scientific reality is that you have not filled the quota yet. The 15% quota have not been filled. So how can you say that these people who have taken first generation, they are taking the share, and because of that they are not getting reservation? अरे you give them reservation, लेकिन उनको खलनायक बना के मत दीजिए आप. This is what is being actually pushed. This is psychological onslaught of a discussion and debate that Dalits who have had the reservation in the first generation, they are the real culprit. Oh, हमारी सोसाइटी तो pristine, pious, हम तो एकदम सचमुच सही कर रहे हैं और बाकी जो लोग हैं खलनायकों ने आपका ले लिया है. I think that is where Dalit leaders, and I'm afraid that Congress has not spoken, BJP has not spoken, even Samajwadi Party has not spoken. You know, this is what actually I think is very, very disturbing. How can a party not speak even against the natural injustice which is done to people who are not able to speak outside? Scheduled tribes and scheduled. And you see, Ravish Kumar calls Yogendra Yadav to talk on Dalits. Huh? And he is considered to be the most progressive. अरे भाई विवेक कुमार भी दलित था, बुला लो, विवेक करो। नहीं, लेकिन मैं जो बात कहना चाह रहा हूं कि किस प्रकार यू लैम्पून इन एवरी साइड, यू डू नॉट हैव मेरिट। ओके भाई, नहीं मेरिट, लेकिन इतना तो बोलने के लिए मेरिट है भाई कि हमारी तरफ से भी योगेंद्र यादव बोलेगा, हमारी तरफ से वोट भी योगेंद्र यादव बताएगा, हम लोग क्या है देखने के लिए। तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कास्ट मोबिलाइजेशन आता है, कास्ट पॉलिटिक्स जब आती है, व्हेन इट कम्स, तो सबसे बड़ी बात है स्व प्रतिनिधित्व, सेल्फ रिप्रेजेंटेशन। जिसका मुद्दा उसकी लड़ाई, जिसकी लड़ाई उसकी अगुवाई, जिसका मुद्दा उसकी लड़ाई, जिसकी लड़ाई उसकी अगुवाई। जलेबी की रखवाली, जलेबी की रखवाली, डोंट टेक इट जेंडर सेंसिटिव, जलेबी की रखवाली बिल्ला या बिल्ली नहीं करेगी, वो तो चट कर जाएगी। इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि ये जो पॉलिटिक्स है उसके अंदर हमेशा दो फाड़ बना रहेगा, एक आत्मनिर्भर दलित राजनीति और एक निर्भर दलित राजनीति। इसके अंदर हमको डिसाइड करना है कि किस प्रकार हम भाग्य विधाता बन सकते हैं। थैंक यू।
Actually, when I was reading the judgment, and I spent a lot of time in reading the judgment, what I read actually that the two judges, Justice Chanchud and Arun Mishra, have not spoken in the creamy layer, anything, not even a single line. Even Justice Bela Trivedi has not spoken anything on the judgment. The three judges, only I said that actually Gawai Saab has in his 281 page judgment, in one page that was on 280th page, and that 2.7 that he brings all of a sudden that creamy layer is permissible. Now what happened, the two judges, they say that they did not write anything. They said that we concur with brother Gawai's judgment. So I am seeing that when I read, no one has taken any clear stand on that. But the worst thing which I feel is that if this judgment is a bad research, nobody is talking about implementation of the reservations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribe for 74 years after the promulgation of the constitution. 74 वर्षों में, I think the MPs are sitting, they should demand a white paper on reservation status if from 74 what has happened. कितने पद सृजित किए 74 वर्षों में, आरक्षण के तहत कितने पद सृजित किए, उसके बाद कितने पद भरे गए, कितने पद खाली हैं, अगर वो खाली हैं तो क्यों खाली हैं, ये केवल अगर डेटा आ जाए तो पता चल जाएगा कि कितनी सरकारों ने। क्योंकि why I am saying this, because I still remember 1961 Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru wrote a letter to his chief ministers. I do not like any type of reservation. That was the line he wrote. Now you can imagine the towering personality which Jawaharlal Nehru has, that he is writing a letter to his chief minister who will implement reservation. 1961 there was a letter. Till 1971 what happened? Candidates not available. That was the statement which was given, candidates not available. Backlog vacancies kept on piling, and therefore the government was supposed to bring special backlog vacancy programs. Till 1981 when the people started, they started telling candidates not found suitable. First candidates were not available, then candidates not suitable. उसके बाद 1990 में there was privatization. Now at the time of privatization, I have a data which says there were 10 lakh vacancies which were vacant for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Where the vacancies have gone, nobody knows. So my only problem is that where is that data which suggests that the implementation of reservation has taken place from the will of the constitution? क्या संविधान की मूल भावना के तहत क्या आरक्षण लागू हुआ? जब नहीं लागू हुआ तो लोग कैसे कह रहे हैं कि भाई साहब ये लोग खाए जा रहे हैं? Now if you are saying this कि खाए जा रहे हैं and therefore we want to have a categorization. I think that is one of the worst type of argument which any court can give. Why it is worst? You are directly blaming the Dalit society for the plight of those people who have not availed reservation. You are telling that these are morally corrupt people and they are cornering all the Malai and therefore they are not getting reservation. You are not ready to analyze how the society has functioned. And we know that. What is National Crime Record Bureau data? 125 atrocities per day SC/ST suffer. 6 women are raped. And what happened? When a person actually grows its mustachios, he is killed. When he drives a vehicle, he is killed. When he goes for a dandiya, he is killed. And when he has to take out, even the government officer has to take out his marriage procession, he has to ask for protection. What about actually fulfillment of reservation? 45 Central University, only 7% professors. That is 15%, 7%. Only in actually class A services in 45 Central Universities, it is only 8.9. You take just yesterday there was this data. There is 80 colleges. Sir, there are 80 colleges in Delhi. Not even one college has a Dalit principal, not ST principal. In 45 universities, there is not even one chancellor from Dalit. So this representation, why I am saying that? Because there is no reservation, there is no representation. आइए यहाँ पर रिजर्वेशन है और उसके बाद नहीं पूरा हो रहा है, वहां तो है ही नहीं, तो क्या रिजर्वेशन मिलेगा? तो इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूं, प्लीज डोंट क्रिएट ए इमोरल कैटेगरी विद इन द दलित themselves. And therefore I am saying that yes, those who have not got reservation, they should get it. Definitely they should get it. But what my plea is, please bring a law in the parliament. आप एक लॉ लाइए और कहिए कि देखिए क्योंकि ये इन लोगों को नहीं मिला है इसलिए हम एक निश्चित परसेंटेज इनके लिए रिजर्व कर रहे हैं. लेकिन आप ये मत कहिए कि इन्होंने माल खा लिया इसलिए इनको नहीं मिला इसलिए हम कैटेगराइज कर रहे हैं. यू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस कि मॉरली वी आर करप्ट and we have usurped the right of the others and therefore they are the vanguard. They are playing the vanguard role to keep the rights. No, this is wrong. This is pitching one group another against the other and the others will say कि नहीं लोग यही माल खाए जा रहे हैं इसलिए ये विरोध कर रहे हैं हमारा. आप लेकर के आइए संशोधन विधेयक, एक विधेयक ला दीजिए संविधान में, आप पार्लियामेंट में लाइए और कहिए कि भाई अब हम इनको 4% देने जा रहे हैं, 5% देने जा रहे हैं, कैटेगराइज कर दीजिए वहीं पर. लेकिन यह मत कहिए कि भाई ये लोग खा रहे हैं इसलिए हम दे रहे हैं, क्योंकि अभी तक तो आपने भरा नहीं है. तो हमारा मानना यह है कैटेगराइजेशन मान लीजिए कर देते हैं 74 साल बाद, लेकिन उसके पहले 2 बातें करनी पड़ेगी. यू हैव टू ब्रिंग साइंटिफिक डेटा ऑन द इंप्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ द रिजर्वेशन after 74 years of promulgation of the constitution. Second, you have to say that yes, there is a need for giving rights or access or accessibility to the people who have not got reservation. Therefore, we are bringing a संविधान संशोधन विधेयक, इसलिए नहीं कि ये खाए जा रहे हैं. आपने आई है विशांत, हम लोग रेडी हैं. So I think you can do the categorization also, but then you will not blame the other community. The blaming the other community is one of the very, very nasty move that actually court has taken. And that is where each group is talking. Each leader which has talked that there is a danger of pitching one group against other. और ये नहीं वेद और पुराण कह रहे हैं यद पुरुषम व्यवधाउ कदिता वे कवल किमस्मुख कौ बाहु कौरपादुच्चेत ब्राह्मणो मुखम आसीत द्विबाहु राजन कृता ऊर्तदस्य द्वैष पदभ्याम शूद्रजायत. तो नहीं, आप don't you have asked a question, listen the answer. This is the debate. You cannot counter question again and again. That is not a debate. उसके बाद बाहर चलेंगे, हम कर लेंगे. अभी आपने पूछा, मैंने बताया, ये तो शाश्वत व्यवस्था है कि किसने यहां पर वेद पुराण स्मृति लिखी और उसमें क्या विधान बताया। मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर रोट, व्हाई डिड ही बर्न मनुस्मृति? बिकॉज देयर इज ए रिलीजियस टिंज टुवर्ड्स द कास्ट सिस्टम एंड कास्ट डिविजन. That we are not saying. It is sociologically written. When we talk about actually what is the force structure, it is the Rig Veda that they will say, and that we have been taught. कौन ब्राह्मण मुख से पैदा हुआ? अरे भाई तो फिर हम उसको कैसे बोल सकते हैं कौन देव है? तो it is a written fact, and on the basis of that, society has been functioning. There have been actually what Baba Sahib said. Actually सुधारवादी आए और चले गए, लेकिन जाति व्यवस्था अपनी जगह है. ये किसने बताया? एक्चुअली शादी.com हमने थोड़ी बनाया. शादी.com चले जाइए. मैं तो आई एम चंचल जी इज वेरी मच कन्विंस्ड जाति जाने वाली नहीं है. इट हैज रीच टू आर्काइव्स, it has reached from real to virtual, and it has reached from India to diaspora. It is not going to go, and therefore discrimination on the basis. अरे नंगा नहाएगा पोछेगा क्या भाई? कैसी बात कर रहे हो कि हम डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कर रहे हैं अपने भाई के साथ, और वो लोग तो भाई बिल्कुल एकदम साफ बने हुए हैं. क्या बात कर रहे हैं? अरे भाई मैं कह तो रहा हूं, मैं इसीलिए कह रहा हूं, आप मैं बार बार बता रहा हूं कि 70% आप देखने वाली रियलिटी इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम साइंटिफिक रियलिटी. हम लोग कहते हैं सूरज पूरब से निकलता है पश्चिम में डूबता है. दिखाई पड़ने में सही लगता है, लेकिन साइंटिफिकली ये सही नहीं है. इसीलिए आप 70% का डेटा ले आइए, 74 साल का डेटा ले आइए और बता दीजिए कि भाई इन्होंने लोग ने इतना ले लिया, हम मान जाएंगे. हम कब मना कर रहे हैं कि हम नहीं मान रहे? हम तो साफ कह रहे हैं कि आप साइंटिफिकली प्रूव करेंगे कि ये खा रहे हैं कि नहीं खा रहे हैं. एक्चुअली मेरा टेक दूसरा है. आई हैव बीन राइटिंग दिस. मैं आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स जो आई उसको मैं वेस्टर्न इंपोर्ट मानता हूं, बिकॉज दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अस्मिता की राजनीति. लेकिन हमारा मानना है कि दलित और आदिवासी तो अस्तित्व की राजनीति कर रहा है. अभी तो वो अस्मिता पे आया ही नहीं है. वह तो अपने मानव होने की बात, दे आर एक्चुअली फाइटिंग ए बैटल टू प्रूव देमसेल्व्स दैट दे आर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, बिकॉज दे डू नॉट हैव इवन ह्यूमन राइट्स. And that is why I think identity politics is much larger issue, a different stage of development when we will reach. Therefore, I think this lumpenization of politics of the Bahujans and lumpenization politics of the deprived section, when they start, they say, or they are actually, they are criticized, they are also stigmatized, that they are spreading the venom of casteism. I argue that casteism is different from caste assertion. Caste assertion is a very neutral term. Caste is a negative term. Casteism, जातिवाद जो है वो नकारात्मक है, जिससे एन प्रकारेण जो जातियां संप्रभुता में हैं, संप्रभु हैं, वो कि दूसरे समाजों को पृथक करना चाहती हैं, अलग करना चाहती हैं. That is what actually is the design. But they are talking, no, I want to take my legitimate right enshrined in the constitution, and I'm not usurping the rights of the others. And they are saying that it is identity politics and it is creating discrimination. But what I'm trying to argue, हमको सत्ता का जो अधिकार दिया, वोट का अधिकार दिया, हमको पार्टी बनाने का अधिकार दिया, that is given to us by the Constitution of India. And we are only trying to implement that. And therefore, how can I actually be called as that I am spreading the venom of casteism? So, identity politics should not be adhered to. The politics which is they are doing is the politics of existence, that they can exist, basically. Which was analyzed by, I'll take actually Kanshiram's version, because he says that actually in any society there are 5 institutions of power, and politics is only one institution. Judiciary, bureaucracy, university, and military. These are actually industry. These are 5 actually institutions of power. If you have only one facet of power, that is politics, that you cannot govern the others. Because you know, when Bahujan Samaj Party was broken, who brought the money? from where the money was brought and who came on special aeroplanes. And even the Chief Justice Sudhya Panchi, that actually verdict is still pending. That how 13 MLAs were broken with money. So I think when we are talking about this Dalit politics, I think we are only talking about one facet. But yes, because now the politics has changed, as everybody was talking about, it is more center as an institution, and this center of politics intrudes in other institutions. So centrality, इसीलिए बाबा साहब कह रहे थे, राजनीतिक सत्ता वो चाबी है जिससे आप सभी द्वार खोल सकते हैं. लेट्स कम एंड यूनाइट. और उसको मानवर काशीराम ने इंप्लीमेंट किया कि हाँ, गुरु किल्ली, political power is that key from which you can open the law. So I think centrality is there, but there was a very immediate goal which certain political parties have left, but rather it has to be immediate goal as well as larger goal. So larger agenda is to capture the different institution, but for the immediate agenda it was capturing the political power.